Hey guys, welcome to another Grower Solution video here. We're gonna discuss the differences today. We're gonna do a little comparison between our high sidewall series and our Dakota series. And we're gonna start off here in the Dakota series. Now, when we talk about growing and the space that we wanna get into, we feel like these two houses are fairly comparable. And one of the big differences we wanna start with talking about here is gonna be the sidewall. Of course, with your high sidewall series, you're gonna be able to get a 7 to a 7.5 foot sidewall, which of course, if you opt into the roll-up sides on that kit, then that's gonna give you the ability to roll your sides all the way up to about 7 feet. Now, depending on what you're growing in your greenhouse, you may find that like on your Dakota series here, we've got these sidewalls set at right at about 4 feet. So depending on what you're growing, you may not need to go all the way up to 7.5 feet. This, in fact, may be all the ventilation, the passive ventilation that you need for your house. And of course, this is gonna go down to what each individual is going to be growing and what their intentions are for their greenhouse. With our high sidewall series, I would tend to put that more on the commercial side of things. Now, it's obviously going to be very useful as a hobby house as well if you have one in your backyard. Of course, with the high sidewall, we have the three main sizes: a 16-foot wide, a 20-foot wide, and a 24-foot wide. That's going to set your length or your width. The length of your house is going to be up to your individual needs. So for a 16-foot wide high sidewall, we wouldn't go any shorter than 16 feet. Same with a 20-foot high sidewall. The shortest we'll go on that is 20 feet. 24, the shortest we'll do is 24 feet. Now, as far as how long you want that house to go beyond that minimum length, we can go all the way out to about 100 feet on our standard kit. And we do offer some customization beyond that. If you are on the commercial side of things and you think that you need a longer house than 100 feet, we do offer some customizations and some things we can do to make that work for you as well. If we focus on the more residential or the hobby side of things, we want to look at our Dakota house. Now, this series does have a few more options. We start with an 8-foot wide series, and we go out in 2-foot increments to 10 and 12 feet. Now, beyond the 12-foot width, we do have two other options: the 16-foot wide and the 20-foot wide. And I do want to separate the 16 and the 20 from the 8, 10, and 12 just a little bit, because the 8, 10, and 12 are going to be a lower peak height. Your center height in those houses is going to be around 8 feet. Whereas in your 16, you're looking at a 10-foot peak on your gable here. And on your 20-foot house, we're looking at roughly 12 feet for the center height. If we want to be in a situation where maybe a 20 by 20 is all we really need in the backyard, we don't need something that's 7.5 feet gonna catch all the wind, depending on where you live. It's potential that the 20-foot wide Dakota versus the 20-foot wide high sidewall may be the house you're looking at. With our gabled peak on this house, and of course, with some of the things that do come in the Dakota that are not included in the high sidewall house, it might be the structure that holds up better for your particular region. Some of those things I wanna discuss that don't come in the high sidewall that do come in the Dakota, particularly the 16 and the 20. Again, with the 8, 10, and 12, we're looking at a smaller width, a lower center height. We don't have the spans to cover and to support. With the design of the house, with the one piece now on the sidewall as opposed to having multiple pieces, we go from the ground stake, we insert our sidewall, and this turn here is gonna be your main connection. That's gonna be the same for all the Dakota series. We've reduced the 8-foot down to a 3-piece bow. We've reduced all of our kits on the Dakota into a simpler series, whereas before they had been a 7-piece. We've reduced that now and made not only the construction simpler for when you put the house together, but also we feel it's made the house a little bit stronger. So on the 8, 10, and 12, you're not gonna have these gussets and trusses and things like you're gonna have on the 16 and 20. Now, when we get into the 16 and 20, we are gonna get back into that range where we have more room to grow in, but we do cover the wider span. So on the 16, you're gonna have a gusset included. We're actually standing in the 20-foot house, and again, included in the kit is this gusset. We're also gonna have the trusses included in the 16 and 20, which are gonna help support the span. And again, if you're in an area that you deal with high winds, know that these Dakota series versus the high sidewalls are gonna be a little bit more supported. If you're in an area with a high snow load, the 16 and the 20, again, with the trusses, especially in this 20-foot house where we've really covered a wider span with the trusses. We added some truss supports into the 20-foot that are not in the 16-foot house. It's really going to come down to your particular need. Well, notice first off, if you compared the 16-foot high sidewall and the 16-foot Dakota, you're going to see that the 16-foot Dakota is a little more expensive. Part of that reasoning is in your 16-foot high sidewall, when you purchase that frame kit or the greenhouse kit itself, you're not going to have end walls included. You're not going to have these trusses and these gussets included. We do have upgrades available, but that builds onto the base price. When you buy your 16-foot or your 20-foot Dakota, you are going to have your end wall kit included. You are going to have your gussets and your trusses included. So it is a little bit more complete house, but I do want to say again that I look at the Dakotas more on the residential side of things, especially in that 8-foot to 12-foot range. With the gabled peak, we're going to be a lot closer to meeting, if you're in an HOA area, to meeting those standards. A lot of HOAs don't want hoop houses in the backyard. So with the gable design, we get closer to meeting those standards. With your high side walls versus your Dakotas, the peak height is going to be similar. Your 16, 20, and 24 high side wall. On those high side walls, you don't have just this built-in support. Again, we do have the V-trusses available as an upgrade. Your 24-foot high side wall will have cable trusses because it is a wider series. The cable trusses are going to act to pull the ground stakes towards each other, which is going to help support that lower arch. But the cable trusses don't come in the 16 or 20. We do have the V-truss upgrade available for those. If you do feel like you're going to deal with a higher snow load or high winds, they do help. I just feel like when you get into a series like this, it's going to come down to what you're growing. If you're going to be growing tomato plants, pepper plants, cucumbers, and things like that, I would stick with the Dakota series. You can get your sidewall. Again, these are set at about 4 feet, and this one that we've built on site. If you're in a high sidewall, you're going to be limited to what you can do with your passive ventilation. You're going to roll all the way up to 7.5 feet. If you don't need to lose that much hot air from your house, if you don't want your climate to change that much, maybe the Dakota's the right thing for you. We can point out a few things in the high sidewall houses that are different, but again, the biggest variation is going to be in your price point and in your ventilation. Now, the roll-up side for both kits is an add-on, but again, if you buy your Dakota kit, it's going to have end walls built into the kit. It's also going to have all of your trusses and supports built into that one price as well. Whereas your high sidewall is going to give you more options for customization to fit your needs a little bit differently. And again, with the center height on that, the high sidewalls on that, I feel personally like those houses are going to be better for your taller crops. I've even seen where people keep their fruit trees trimmed at about 6 foot, and they've run them down the middle of a 24-foot house. So it really is just going to come down to your personal needs and what's going to fit your purposes best.